Miriam always claimed that a cave's first language was silence. The stone only tolerated rustling ropes and measured breaths because it had no throat with which to protest. So when laughter clear, buoyant laughter slipped through the limestone passages of the Grendel fault system, every member of her 5-person survey team stopped moving at once. Their headlamps froze like startled eyes. The beams flared against damp walls. But the sound did not recoil or die. It simply threaded around the corners, rolled across flowstone, and vanished, deeper than their maps reached. Isaac, the team's sound engineer, lifted the parabolic microphone he'd brought to study subterranean acoustics. "Definitely human," he said, voice low, as though courtesy were owed to such bold echoes. "No distortion, no Doppler, like whoever it is just..." Laughing at a joke we missed, Rosa, medic and realist, added. "And there's no one scheduled in this sector except us. Closest entrance is 5 hours west." Tyler, the youngest, exhaled the word most of them were thinking. Ghosts? Lynn, cartographer and compass guardian, smirked. Or spelunkers with a better sense of humor. Miriam touched the cold wall, feeling for the vibration of that strange mirth. "Either way, we document. We're here to finish the southeastern map. Keep recorders rolling." The journey had begun 3 days earlier, ropes and gear descending through clay chimneys into fossil tunnels that hadn't breathed fresh air since Appalachia first buckled. Each day they extended the grid, adding careful pencil hatchings to Lynn's waterproof sheets. So far, the cave system obeyed geologic logic. Narrow fissures leading to old river conduits, vertical shafts opening into high chambers where stalactites hung like shark teeth. The team's progress was slow but predictable until laughter entered like a new mineral deposit nobody could classify. They pushed onward, spurred by curiosity and professional stubbornness. The echoes reappeared at intervals, always ahead, never behind. Somewhere in that black labyrinth, a comedian performed for an audience of blind shrimp and fossils. The notion was absurd, yet each rippling chuckle was so bright, so unforced, so utterly present that joking theories felt safer than confronting possibility. During the evening camp at Station Delta, Isaac replayed a clip through low-volume headphones. The others crowded around, sharing the earpieces in turn. The recording held laughter, yes, but also the faintest clinking of glass and a whistle-like steam releasing from valves. "Carnival sounds," Tyler whispered, eyes wide. "I swear that's a calliope." Miriam noted the tremor in his voice. "Our objective remains mapping. We reach the next chamber, log samples, and leave. No heroics." Still, she did not order a retreat. Some part of her, academic or ancient, wanted the laughter to explain itself, mourning in a lightless realm as mere consensus. They agreed it was time, packed bivouacs, and headed southeast. The tunnel sloped gradually, floor polished by centuries of water. Faint drafts carried the odor of fireworks, spent gunpowder laced with sugar. Nobody mentioned it until Rosa said, "Smells like county fairs back home." The air also brightened. Not visually, their lamps still ruled the void, but acoustically. The space gained height, then width, until their voices stopped bouncing immediately back and began wandering before returning as soft, delayed versions. Even the crunch of boot soles gained an unintended theatricality, like footsteps on a stage. 6 hours in, they entered a room unlike any charted cavern. The limestone vaulted into arcs so symmetrical they appeared engineered. Columns rose like marquee supports, and the floor had been swept clear of debris. At the center, a row of masks lay in a crescent, porcelain faces painted with harlequin grins, each fixed in a unique shade of delight. Tyler bent, intending to touch, but Miriam's hand shot out. "No contamination." Isaac, recording, paled slowly. "There's a resonance here. Can you feel it? Like the whole chamber's waiting to speak." It did. Laughter erupted, sudden as a strike of flame. This time it wasn't distant. It clustered above them, spiraling down in overlapping tiers. soprano giggles, baritone guffaws, the staccato cackle of someone who couldn't breathe for joy. The spelunkers stood shoulder to shoulder, lamp searching empty air, yet saw no one. Lynn's fingers twitched toward her pencil but halted, transfixed. "That's not playback! That's live." A new sound dovetailed in. Tinny music, compressed as though funneled through a carnival organ left too long and damp. The melody jangled, cheery and off-key. With it came the faint smell of caramelizing sugar. Rosa mouthed, "We need to leave." But even she didn't step back. Something in the music had hooked them, tugging gently toward a gap between two columns where darkness formed a low arch. The tune drifted through that aperture like a scent trail. Miriam made the call. "Helmets, stay on. Harnesses clipped. We proceed as one." Beyond the arch, the floor leveled into what might once have been a subterranean riverbed, now dry and smoothed to uncanny polish. Multicolored motes winked in the far distance, at first mistaken for mineral refraction in limestone, but as they advanced, the lights danced, shifted, arranged themselves into lines. The five emerged into a vast cavern, so high their lamps never reached its crown. And there before them, sprawled across acres of rock, was a carnival. Booths constructed from ribs of stalagmite and stretched canvas stood in jubilant disarray. Paper lanterns glowed with internal fireflies. A Ferris wheel, impossible, absurd, rose skeletal, its cars resembling geodes, cracked to reveal cushioned interiors. The wheel turned without motor, each rotation slow as a planet's revolution. And everywhere, jesters, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, capered among the attractions. They wore motley that shimmered like oil on water. Bells adorned wrists and ankles, but the bells never rang. Silence made their motions eerie, a pantomime recital. Their faces were painted in permanent theatrical masks, broad smiles, wide sobs, manic astonishment. Yet the painted mouths did not move. The laughter filling the cavern seeped from behind the masks, bodiless and omnidirectional, as though the very air laughed through them. The spelunkers stood on a rise of stone above the midway. The jesters noticed immediately. Heads snapped up in perfect unison, a murder of crows detecting carrion. Then, as one, they bowed low, a flourish of courtesy that felt more like predation. Tyler whispered, "Are they welcoming us?" Isaac had already begun recording frantic notes into his mic. Faced with the impossible, he defaulted to empirical zeal. This is sonic architecture. The cave walls must be channeling. A jester separated from the flock and pranced up the slope. Its footsteps made no sound. Silk shoes kissed stone as lightly as pollen. At arm's length, it stopped, head tilting. The painted grin was blue, hooks of joy stretching to the temples. Miriam addressed it, voice steady. We're explorers. We don't mean harm." The gesture extended an arm, revealing a cane topped with a crystal orb swirling smoky light. It tapped the cane against Miriam's boot, gently, once, twice, an invitation to follow. When she did not move, the gesture executed a comedic shrug, spun the cane, and clacked heels together. From somewhere within the costume came a muffled boink, the sound of a rubber horn squeezed by invisible fingers. "Classic clown gag," Lind muttered. "Maybe they just want to perform." Then the jester pulled off its own mask. There was no face beneath, only an ongoing, impossible aperture, like a wound cut into reality. From its edges leaked rubescent glitter, and from that fissure poured the laughter, strong enough now to ruffle clothing. Miriam felt the sonic pressure on her teeth, a buzzing in her skull. The gesture replaced the mask, and the sensation lessened to bearable thrum. Tyler gagged, turned away. Rosa grabbed his harness, preventing a stumble. Isaac recorded everything, his eyes shining with terror disguised as scholarship. The jester gestured again, this time more insistently, pointing its cane toward the carnival. Another jester sprinted over, then a third, then a dozen, surrounding the spelunkers in a ring of color and rigid grins. Escape paths disappeared behind fabric walls of living jesters. The cane tapped a rhythm that matched the off-key calliope. Slowly, inexorably, they herded the team down the slope. Saying no felt impossible. Resistance was swallowed by the smothering cheer. The smell of kettle corn thickened, mingled with something metallic. The carnival awaited. Booths identified themselves with chalkboard slates. Mirror house. Guess your age. Ring toss. But each game was subtly wrong. In the mirror house, glass surfaces did not reflect bodies, only expressions. If Tyler smiled, his grin would appear floating alone, orbiting where his head should be. Rosa backed out, pale, when her own reflection winked, though her eyelids never moved. At the Guess Your Age booth, a jester placed cold-gloved fingers on Isaac's temple. Numbers swirled across the slate: 34, 19, 62, 8, 101, 0. When the glove lifted, Isaac stumbled, momentarily unable to remember his birth year. He muttered into his mic, "Temporal distortion? Losing hold on..." "Lynn, far too brave," cried the ring toss. The stakes were familial memories promised as prizes. She lost. The jester reached through her chest, not physically, but the idea of her chest, and extracted a glowing handkerchief that fluttered like film footage. Lynn cried out, suddenly unable to recall her sister's face. Miriam shoved the jester away, but her palms met empty air. The gesture felt like pressing into soap bubbles. "Enough," Miriam barked. "We leave now." The jester's painted smiles widened, as if paint could stretch. They parted, creating a path wide enough for one. Miriam led, pulling Lynn, Rosa guiding Tyler, Isaac trailing, voice recorded. Attempts to exit in southwest vector. A Ferris wheel car descended level with them, doors opening to release no passenger. The platform ahead was the only exit slope they could see. They marched beneath fiberglass gears that turned with silent leisure. Halfway across, the laughter rose again, gale force. Miriam fought forward, but found her legs moving to a new rhythm, a marionette tugged by unseen strings. Around her, teammates staggered similarly. Isaac's recorder caught the change first. The laughter wasn't simply loud. It spoke, not in words but in instructions. Each rise and fall of mirth shaped their muscles, urging them into dance. Tyler broke into skipping steps. Lynn's arms arced overhead. Rosa spun. The gesture's language was choreography. Miriam clenched teeth, striving for a memory untainted by humor. She pictured a childhood library, so quiet the pages rustled like birds. That silence became her shield. Through its hush, she heard a weaker sound. Bells. Tiny real bells on jesters' wrists. They were close. If she could find those physical bodies, maybe impact mattered here. She shouted, "Helmets off! Cover ears!" But her voice emerged a joke. A squeak, then a honk punchline intonation. Words mocked themselves. Still, the team understood. Rosa yanked foam plugs from her survival pouch, jammed them in. Tyler clapped glove palms over ear cups. The laughter dimmed for those who resisted, but jesters closed rank, anger changing their body language to jerky lines. Isaac, half deaf to begin with, fumbled dials on his recorder, searching for frequency interference. He found it, an ultrasonic layer above the audible laughter. "It's like a dog whistle made of joy," he rasped. He toggled a feedback loop, amplifying the ultrasonic spike back into the cavern. A piercing scheming sliced through Jester's mirth. The painted performers recoiled, masks vibrating. One dropped its cane, another's motley split, leaking threads of red stardust. The laughter wavered, lost cohesion. Wheel bell chimes surfaces irregular. Panicked. "Run!" Miriam commanded, grabbing Lynn. They bolted across midway boards that weren't there seconds before, carnival stalls flickering in and out like failing projections. With each step, the Ferris wheel aged decades, scars rusting, bolts snapping, the skeleton sagging into rubble. Isaac kept the feedback going until a jester pounced, knocking recorder and engineer to the ground. Device. skittered, slammed against rock, and died. Silence collapsed inward. The laughter rushed back, furious. Isaac yelled, "Go!" blood on his face, and wrestled the jester, locking arms around absence itself. Miriam dragged Rosa. Tyler dragged humanity toward a tunnel mouth, blinking like a failing neon exit. A wall of jesters surged, but their cohesion was frayed. Holes tore in costumes, revealing more absence beneath. Miriam realized with grim awe, they were not beings wearing masks. The masks held them together. Remove paint, remove existence. She seized a jester's face, ripped the porcelain grin free. The entity screamed silently, unraveling into confetti that evaporated before touching stone. Tyler copied her, yanking another mask. The carnival's geometry writhed. Tents shrank into origami. Rides curled like burning paper. Up above, a stalactite cracked, raining shards. They crossed the threshold into the original vaulted chamber, hearts hammering. Behind, the arch convulsed, stone edges melting like wax, ceiling shut. The final sound carried through the gap before it closed, a solitary chuckle, weary yet satisfied, as if the cave itself had enjoyed the spectacle. Silence reclaimed sovereignty. Lamplight illuminated familiar speleothems, damp and inert. Miriam collapsed against the wall, armor of professionalism shattered. Rosa checked injuries, scrapes, bruises, Isaac's split lip. Lynn stared at nothing, tears tracking soot. Her name was May, she murmured. My sister. I can't see her face. Miriam promised, we'll recover memories. Hollow words, but necessary. The ascent took 2 days. They avoided camps near echo-prone chambers. When unavoidable, they slept in shifts, ears plugged. No laughter followed, yet each drip of water felt like the start of a giggle. On the final climb, sunlight streaming through the mouth blinded them. Above-ground birdsong seemed alien. Park rangers recorded statements. Isaac turned over corrupted audio. The carnival tape now contained only faint wind. Authorities shrugged. Caves do strange things to minds. The team was advised to rest, seek counseling. Weeks later, in separate cities, each survivor heard it again. For Miriam, the moment came in a supermarket aisle. Canned goods, fluorescent hum. Laughter erupted inside the can, metal trembling. She slammed it back on the shelf and rushed outside. For Rosa, it arrived as her infant niece laughed. Overlapping adult laughter harmonized, just for an instant. Tyler woke nightly to hear carnival music leaking from vents. Lynn's sketches of cave systems filled with unbidden flourishes. Spirals, bells, motley triangles. Isaac, chasing explanation, analyzed background noise in ordinary environments. Deep among frequencies he found it. The same ultrasonic thread, constant, global, as if the jester's broadcast rode the planet's heartbeat. By suppressing them, they had ruptured a seal. Now the world provided a new stage. The 5 convened one evening at Miriam's apartment, drawn by shared dread. They sat around her dining table, topographical maps spread like tarot cards. No one suggested returning underground. That door was closed. But they also knew withdrawal would not help. The laughter wanted audience, participation, feed. Miriam spoke first. They're not bound to the carnival anymore. They can manifest in echoes, even above ground. Isaac nodded, tapping his ruined recorder. Sound is their vehicle. If we map transmission nodes, we might disrupt them again properly this time. Rosa countered. And risk tearing a bigger hole. We barely made it out. Lynn, voice thin, asked the table, Are we sure we did? They fell quiet. Tyler eventually produced the porcelain face he'd pocketed in the chaos. Smooth, grin eternal, it lay on the wood reflecting lamplight. He hadn't intended theft. His hand had simply closed around it while scrambling. The mask was intact, yet something moved behind the eye slits, dark glitter swirling. No one touched it, but each recognized the truth. The carnival hadn't been discovered. It had been invited. The cave was merely the first place they listened hard enough to hear it laughing back. Its stage could be any echo chamber, underpass, concert hall memory. The gestures were eternal because they performed in acoustics, not flesh. Miriam finally slid a notebook forward. We keep mapping sound. Above ground, below ground. That's still who we are. Her hand trembled, but held steady. Silence may be cave's first language, but now noise is fluent. If we don't chart it, someone else will wander in unprepared. Their eyes met, exhausted yet resolute. Outside, a car backfired, and for half a breath, they braced for chorus. Only ordinary night resumed. A fragile reprieve. They began to plan, scribbling frequencies, coordinates, equations. Around the mask, the air shimmered with barely audible chuckles, patient and pleased. The carnival needed only time. Laughter, after all, echoes best where listeners lean close, haunted by jokes they almost remember.